Welcome to Build Weekend Watch, the show that'll help you find so much content to watch this weekend you'll never have to focus on the fact that America is a raging dumpster fire led by full-fledged Nazis detaining and locking children in abandoned Walmarts. I'm Ricky Camilleri, and today I'm joined by Yahoo Entertainment senior correspondent Kevin Polowy and Deciders deputy editor Meghan O'Keefe. Guys, thanks so much for being here.
That was an amazing intro.
I mean, it was very apt and honest, and I think it's raw, and I think it's real, and I think that's what we're gonna talk about.
I think it captured the essence of what we've all gone through this week.
Yeah, and we're all gonna talk about TV and the fun things that you can watch, but we should all take a moment to say that when we are watching TV and doing fun things, there are really horrible things happening, and we can kind of just keep them in the back of our head. But on that note, right?
Jurassic
World. Fallen Kingdom. The first piece of content for you to distract yourself from the waking nightmare we live in. Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. The movie no one I know wants to see hits theaters today and has already made close to $1 billion thanks to China's population of over 3 billion. Chris Pratt is back for what looks to be a quick cash grab by all. Here's the trailer.
Genetic power has now been unleashed.
You can't put it back in the box.
Blue!
If I don't make it back, remember you're the one who made me come here. I'll be all right. These creatures were here before us.
And if we're not careful, they're gonna be here after.
Okay, so I have not seen this, so I can't give you my opinion. I have an opinion about it, but I'm not going to say it because I haven't seen it, to be dishonest. I didn't love Jurassic World, the one previously. I found it to be all of the worst aspects of blockbuster movies right now, mainly just CGI loudness with very little story, very little interesting story, and also fairly sexist for the most part.
Kind of a retrograde, especially when you consider Laura Dern in the first film, how sort of just alive and three-dimensional she was, and capable. She was capable. She was very able to be involved with the action. She didn't have, high heels and sort of
it seemed like
a shrewish manner.
Someone watched the original and were like, let's do the opposite of that,
I saw a great tweet the other day, and this, I feel like, sums up my feelings on this franchise at this point. It was like the best, I think it said the best Jurassic Park movies ranked. And it said #1, Jurassic Park. And then it ended.
Yeah, that's about right. You've seen this.
I have seen this, and I was right there with you on part one. It like this movie has already made $1 gazillion, and it was just one of those phenomenons I don't think anybody saw coming, especially once you saw the movie. It felt like subpar Jurassic Park. This movie, I wanted so much to be better. I like Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard as actors. The first 2 acts I think are a hot mess. I do think the movie kind of redeems itself in the 3rd act, and that's because we actually finally start to see, I'm not going to spoil anything, but we finally start to see dinosaur attacks. And through the first 90 minutes, the biggest threats are a volcano about to erupt on this island where the amusement park was, where all these dinos are now roaming free, and a few mustache twirling villains. And I don't know. I want my Jurassic Park movies to be about dinosaurs eating the crap out of people, and that does not happen until about, I don't know, 90 minutes in.
But does that not happen because they're developing a smart story and good characters? Why does that not happen?
I don't.
I mean, because that could be a great payoff.
Yeah,
that could be a
the
Jaws
very
payoff,
first Jurassic Park is kind of a slow-moving first act, just because it's setting up all the dominoes, so when it does start to tilt out of order, and when everything happens, you care and you're invested in these people.
And what works so wonderful about the first Jurassic Park, maybe it's insane to even do this because it's like completely different movies at this point, but even watching it now after having all these other CGI movies, there is still, and it's what Spielberg is so good at, a sense of wonder that comes with the first hour or the first couple acts, first act and a half, that then sort of turns. The rug gets pulled out from under them and everything goes haywire, but that that first half of Jurassic Park is so much fun and beautiful, and the score, you cry just when you hear that score a little bit, and she sees the dinosaur for the first time. What are they setting up in Jurassic Park 10 here?
They're setting up Jurassic World 3. I mean, there is an obvious setup here. It is clear this movie is clearly meant to be a bridge. And again, I'm not going to get into spoiler territory, but you can see exactly where they're going with Part 3. And I'm not going to lie, I actually I left the movie somewhat intrigued where they would go. It has a
you got
I
sold.
got duped. I got sold. I got sold.
Duped.
Yeah.
I didn't like what I just watched for 2.5 hours.
But I'll watch
one.
Part 3. My other bone to pick here, pun definitely intended. Jeff Goldblum. This is supposed to be Dr. Ian Malcolm's triumphant return, and it is not triumphant in any way, shape, or form.
He's not shirtless?
He's definitely not shirtless.
No!
He may cackle. He may have a slight cackle at one point. But this is just it's an old, tired, wary version of Dr. Ian Malcolm. He's hardly in it. I think honestly as a Goldblumite, that might be my biggest disappointment with this movie.
Really?
No. I mean, this is completely off topic, but one thing that I was kind of curious to see is Justice Smith. He's a small part in it, but I loved him in The Get Down. Justice Smith, he's this young actor. He was in The Get Down, this Netflix show that's really amazing and kind of criminally underwatched. And I kind of was worried that he wouldn't find his footing in Hollywood after that got canceled. How is he in the film? I know he's a supporting kind of character.
He is good. I don't think the movie, this will not surprise you after what we've just talked about for the past 5 minutes. It's not that well written, and I think his character may suffer the most from that. His arc in this movie is basically to be terrified by everything that he sees and to freak the hell out at the sight
of us this past week, just constantly terrified by everything we saw.
And that's what they were going for. I will say there are a couple good Trump Easter eggs in this movie to watch out for.
Are they good? Did we want Easter
that would imply that we want more of him in some respect.
Yeah, they're sly. I'll say that. They'll give you a laugh if you catch them.
Well, two of the most exciting young actors working right now unite for the first time. Of course, I'm talking about Dustin Diamond and Heather Locklear. JK, it's Robert Pattinson, hot off the rave reviews of the well-received Safdie brothers' Good Time, and Mia Wasikowska, both starring together in the Zellner brothers film Damsel. Let's check out the trailer.
Marriage is a big jump. It's hard. And things don't always go the way you want them to.
Guess that's what it boils down to.
Are you really a preacher?
Not in the conventional sense, but my heart's in the right place.
You gave me mixed signals.
I gave you no signals! If you're gonna go on questioning the validity of my feelings, then you can go to hell.
You're a regular Black Widow, ain't you? Things are gonna be lousy in new and fascinating ways.
So I love the Zellner brothers. I love Mia Wasikowska. I like Robert Pattinson when he gets the chance to be really great. You know, Good Time, he was great. The Lost City of Z, which is a criminally underrated, untalked about film. It's one of the most beautiful movies to come out in the past few years. I think he's very good in that. And so I'm really looking forward to Damsel. I really want to see it.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things, especially from one of my good friends who's a critic. She loves this film. Apparently, Robert Pattinson continues his streak of just being weird and awesome, and kind of his lane is being that sort of weirdness on the sleeve of his shirt kind of weirdo.
Which is a new thing for, I mean, that's a new thing for him.
I mean, I guess it is. I think throughout all of the Twilight press tours and even Harry Potter, he kind of was sort of suppressing this kind of weird, awkward urge. And I think now it's being mined by directors who kind of see that spark in him. I definitely think it's going to be like a really fun twist in the Western, which we've seen a lot of lately. I think, yeah, and honestly, just the miniature horse sold me.
Yes. Yeah. I think as a society we've been in dire need of a miniature horse ever since little Sebastian passed away. R.I.P. on Parks and Rec. Right.
R.I.P.
Yeah. I'm with you guys. I mean, we don't see indie Western comedies come along all that often. But I definitely hold a lot of respect for what Mr. Arpats has done over the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, you can tell there's a very conscious effort here to sort of recalibrate his career after becoming sort of definitely a pinup. But he's made some good movies, and he's really good in them. You mentioned, and they're all, and a lot of them tend to be. I don't know if I'd call this film edgy, but a lot of them tend to be on the edgy side. Especially something like Good Time, where he was just rocking this like wicked Queen's accent and running berserk all over New York. That's an amazing movie. Yes.
Connie, yeah.
Yes. And Lost City of Z, especially. I mean, that might be the most mainstream thing he's done since Twilight, and that's hardly Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom.
We shouldn't, I mentioned her, we should not talk about Mia Wasikowska. I think she is, there's no reason for her to recalibrate her career. No. She's just one of the best actresses working right now. She's just fantastic anytime she's on screen. But let's move on to Brain on Fire, which is stars Chloe Grace Moretz as a woman, it's based on a true story, a woman who woke up and just was going crazy based on memoir. Let's check out the trailer.
Her EEG is completely normal, her MRI is normal, her neurological exam is normal, it's all normal.
Her condition continues to regress. Manic behavior, paranoia.
Each of them is giving us a different diagnosis. One is saying bipolar, next one is saying schizophrenic, then they're saying psychotic.
We should look at hospitals that are better equipped to deal with her.
Just take the pills.
She needs all of us.
We will find the answer.
Her life is in your hands. Tell me what is wrong with my daughter.
Now, I haven't seen this movie. I shouldn't really start all of these conversations that way. It's like, everybody's like, well, then what the hell am I doing watching you? But I will say this was an incredibly famous story, this book. Chloe Grace Moretz, a pretty big star. It's produced by Charlize Theron's production company. Yet I'm not seeing much for this anywhere, which gives me the impression that maybe it's not that great.
Wasn't it like filmed like 3 years ago and it was finished in 2016 and kind of put on the shelf and now it's on Netflix, which...
That's a bad sign.
Well, it is, and it's also kind of a sign of the times. I think Netflix is sort of... I will say this, people have been disparaging Netflix's movie slate for a while, and yet we're sort of starting to see this kind of shift in how, at least in my office, how we're seeing Netflix's movie strategy. Because the irony is,
a gradual acceptance of poor quality.
No, here's the thing. Like there are rom-coms like Set It Up.
Oh, we're gonna get there. We're gonna next. We're gonna get there.
I know. But this is kind of a movie where I would not go to the theater to see it, but I'm probably not going to the theater this weekend, and Netflix knows that. I'm probably gonna sit on my couch, drink rosé, and think to myself, well, what's new on Netflix? And I'm gonna see this and think, sure. And I feel like, I know that's very I know that's very depressing, but that's kind of how we're watching movies more and more now. I mean, if Jurassic World is not appealing to us and the box office kind of bonanza circus that it's supposed to, we're kind of just gonna stay at home and watch Brain on Fire.
Netflix, sure. hedging their bets on viewers' lack of passion.
It is a strategy.
And laziness.
I'll watch this. I don't know.
Right, I got nothing else to do here.
Sure.
I think this movie, aside the fact that it's been shelved, never a good sign, has an uphill battle just based on its source material. I got anxiety just watching this trailer. I mean, I think is that not like everyone's worst nightmare? And that's why horror movies work in general. This is not a horror movie. This is biting real life nightmare. This is a young woman who wakes up one day, has splitting headaches, and they only get worse and worse and worse, and nobody can figure out what the hell is wrong with her. This terrifies me to no end, and I don't want to watch it.
We're going to take a quick break from new releases and talk about something that came out last week and made a pretty big splash. Meghan just brought it up. It's Set It Up. It's a romantic comedy that's on Netflix starring Zoe Dutch and Glenn Powell. I wasn't personally blown away by the movie, but many others were, and it's led to the question, will the Netflix model be the savior of thoroughly mediocre movies, specifically romantic comedies?
Well, as I was saying, there's definitely...
As you set it up.
It's a sure genre choice. No, I watched Set It Up, and again, it's kind of, as rom-coms go, it is mediocre. It hits kind of beats almost to a cliched extent.
I like rom-coms, and I like mediocre rom-coms, and even in that regard, I was kind of like, this is less than...
And yet we're so hungry and thirsty for it. I think what I saw on my Twitter feed last week and what I've been seeing continually talking with people about this movie, The Kissing Booth, a bunch of other kind of rom-coms that have populated on Netflix recently, is that people just kind of want that delirium again. They want to watch two attractive people spar for the first act, come together for the second act, and then like make goo-goo eyes at each other while eating a pizza late at night on the bedroom floor, which is what happens set it up. I think...
Can I offer something?
Yeah, I was going to... Yeah, but go on.
The romantic comedies that we have nostalgia for that we love were properly budgeted.
Yeah.
And so when you watch something like You've Got Mail, it captures a sort of romantic version of the Upper West Side that really is a certain kind of budget is required to do that. And when you watch something like Set It Up and the boom mic drops into frame in the middle of a romantic moment, it's like, sure, I guess we're hungry for this, but you actually can't capture a kind of romantic ideal.
That actually happens.
And I agree completely. I do, however, what I think is interesting though is that if people are this excited for Set It Up, I'm really excited to see what happens in August when Crazy Rich Asians hit cinemas, because I think that's the movie with a little bit more budget, a little more jazz and zhuzh, and it's going to take us to this kind of very opulent world that we don't usually see, which gives it kind of a fantastical kind of air, kind of exclusivity, and it's based on a bestseller romantic comedy novel, and it's got great characters. It's really fun. So if John Chu pulls off directing Kevin Kwan's words, I think that could be a huge cultural moment like Black Panther, but for rom-coms and Asian cinema.
Yeah, no, I have not seen this movie. I'm intrigued by it mainly because of these social media reactions that I'm seeing. Not only that all these people are watching it, but I keep seeing people who I know and love and respect saying they're rewatching it. So I guess my question for you guys is what do you think makes this movie rewatchable?
I think it's
I have no clue.
I think it's Glenn Powell and Zoe Dutch.
Yeah. I would agree with that. The two of them have a lot of chemistry, and they're very adorable.
Lucy Liu's great too, and Meredith Hagner is great. Pete Davidson is Pete Davidson playing a gay.
Yeah, I did not appreciate. I gotta say, I did not appreciate that character. That was like Andy Samberg, Andy Samberg, and I Love You, Man, where it's like, let's get the straightest guy possible to play a gay character. Isn't that funny? No.
It's a bit. It kind of punctures the scenes, but again, Glenn Powell and Zoe Dutch. I think most critics have been watching them for a while and thinking to themselves they would do really well in a rom-com platform. And even though it's a low budget, not quite what they deserve, their talent lifts it up, their chemistry lifts it up, and just their charisma. And I think
they're both very pretty.
They are.
Yeah.
I think that may be one of the things, the best things to come from this movie is sort of like Zoe Deutsch has been just bubbling up for years now, and I don't think she's necessarily found the right vehicles. I mean, she did a rom-com with James Franco at one point called Why Him? It wasn't very...
I like that movie.
It was all right.
Less of a rom-com, more of just like a big studio comedy.
Sure.
Whereas this is definitely walking in the heels of like a Nancy Meyers kind of thing. Or Nora Ephron, I guess you could say. The kind of the heroes of romantic comedy, the ones who really built the genre.
It definitely felt like a fever dream based on like Nora Ephron sort of scenes. I mean, to me, it felt like you watched a marathon of Nora Ephron films, took some kind of Quaalude, and then woke up.
Wrote a script in about 45 minutes.
The script is brought to you by Quaalude.
Next up, we have Marvel's Luke Cage. In this season, the hero of Harlem meets his new match with the new villain, Bushmaster, who I'm assuming, based on the name, is a lawnmower. That's right. I don't know. Why bother double checking? Luke Cage fights the lawnmower.
Right. Yeah.
Trailer?
It's game time. Do what you want. We stay feeling fools. Do what you want. Your life for your chooses.
I've seen you raw, but never brutal.
Sometimes brutality gets shit done.
Harlem doesn't need a hero. It needs a queen.
The darkness that you deal with every day, it can consume you whole. If you let it. Don't let it.
So this is something that I've said on this stage before, and I'll say it again, and I think it applies to Luke Cage and kind of a lot of the superhero shows, also just a lot of the sort of Netflix, Amazon shows, which is that all of these shows feel like they have 4 storylines or 4 story beats that are spread out over 10 episodes. Yeah. It's incredibly frustrating because you get one good episode to start it, and then you get 2, 3, 4, and 5 where you're just going, could we do something here? This is still a television show, and you still are episodic. As much as you think you are serialized and I'm going to binge watch you, you are episodic. You have to tell a story per episode. And these shows don't feel like they think that they have to do it because people are going to quote unquote binge it. It's kind of ruining a certain amount of storytelling. Go ahead.
No, I completely agree. I actually read a piece just in the past week about like the 3 things I think Marvel's Netflix shows in particular need to address, and one of them is what I call like the story bloat. And I think that like they, it was really fun in the beginning as a Marvel fan. I'm a huge comic book nerd to sort of see Daredevil's origin story carefully laid out over this kind of lovingly kind of plotted 13-episode run where you had a lot of attention given to Wilson Fisk as well, and he was humanized. But as these series have become more and more just kind of churned out, it feels less like we're honoring the character and more like we're just filling space. Like we're pantomiming to fill the 13-episode order. And I would rather they do like a tight 3-episode, jam-packed, super kind of movie. Like, if they want to tell a story with these characters, really know what story you want to tell, be passionate about it, and cut all of the excess weight.
Even Jessica Jones's second season, which I liked, but I still found it to be kind of hard to get through because you're just waiting for the story to happen.
Yeah, I think they're taking their roles in the MCU very seriously in terms of like playing out what could probably fit into a 2-hour movie over the course of 10 episodes. I agree with you guys both. These plot lines are stretched very, very, very thin.
You think about a show, and I use this as, and maybe it's a bad example because it's one of the greatest shows of all time, but you think about The Sopranos, right? Mm-hmm. Which, if you go back and watch The Sopranos, you can put on any episode of that show, whether you've seen all of it or not, and you can very quickly get what the dynamics are between characters and what the storyline for that episode is, and you'll get drawn into a broader storyline that goes throughout the course of the whole season, the whole show. And I find that sometimes I turn on a Luke Cage or another show, and I've already been watching some of it, and I'm like, wait, I don't even know what this is about anymore. The show feels totally lost. Like they haven't even figured out exactly what story they want to tell and how to tell it throughout the 13 episodes.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think it's going to get worse before it gets better because Iron Fist season 2 is next. And he appears in the season of Luke Cage, and as one of my coworkers was like, it's the most unintentionally hilarious episode I've seen in my life. Like he apparently just comes in and just is.
It's a little forced, but that all said, I actually really like the Luke Cage. I think, plot stretches aside, I think first and foremost because of the cast. I love the cast of this series. I think Mike Coulter just has charisma to spare in that role. In that role, Alfre Woodard is just like chewing up the scenery right and left and spitting it out. Some great new characters. Bushmaster, not actually a lawnmower. Very, very close. I think Luke Cage definitely meets his match. As you see in the trailers, he gets knocked out by this mysterious guy, Bushmaster, played by Mustafa Shakir. It sets up a cool dynamic that actually reminded me a lot of Black Panther, which is obviously a very good thing, and sort of this culture clash within this community between Bushmaster, who's this Afro-Caribbean, kind of a not to give too much away, but kind of a voodoo master.
And he's from the outer boroughs too, which is a whole other layer of subtext and sort of intercultural issues.
Right. Versus this Harlem, and I love that moment in sort of the superhero arc that I think the show has a lot of fun with after he's revealed. To the public. You can have he's become this sort of cult hero to Harlem, and I think it makes the show 10 times more fun.
And I would agree, the cast in Luke Cage is always phenomenal. I mean, like, it has some of my favorite characters, favorite performances. Alfre Woodard, I think, like you said, she definitely she was great in the first season, but it almost feels like she dialed up to 11 and really rewatched what Mahershala Ali did and was like, I'm going to do exactly what he did and even better. She and Theo Rossi have some really juicy and amazing moments early on that are really, like, cool, too. And obviously, Simone Missick is just... Again, I think Misty Knight might be my favorite character in the Marvel Netflix series. I just think that she feels like a real three-dimensional woman and character who is fighting and punching her way through the madness that is this Marvel world. But yeah, it's disappointing that I feel like I'm a huge Marvel fan and I want to love to binge these shows. And like we were saying before, it's veering into that territory for me where I love the characters, love the actors. I love Teo Coker, the creator. I think his voice when he's writing the episodes especially comes through and is exceptional. But
there's a sense with these shows, and I go back to Jessica Jones season 2, which is that I know something is going to happen, and I want to get to this place where it's going to happen, but they're not making enough happen in between me knowing that something is coming and when it actually does come. So you're just kind of moving through these episodes until finally it's like, oh, there's David Tennant. Great.
Yeah.
Now we can keep going.
Now he's gone. Okay.
Let's move on to our next show. This past Wednesday, Kevin Costner returned to TV with the premiere of his new Paramount Network series, Yellowstone. In it, he plays John Dutton, a man desperately trying to protect his family's ranch from several people who will do nothing to take it. To protect the ranch, Costner once again builds a baseball field to summon shoeless Joe Jackson and the 1919 Chicago White Sox, who this time come bearing Tommy guns, and a massive gunfight ensues instead of a friendly pickup game of baseball. I think. I don't know. I haven't seen it. Let's look at the trailer.
A man must stand with his people.
This ain't checkers, son. This is chess. And you're about to play it with masters.
All I do every day is fight for this family.
If you were winning, I wouldn't be here.
I don't regret one sin I've committed. It's the one I'm about to commit that worries me.
Mess with my family. I will chop your family tree down.
Progress.
Can't stop it, John.
Watch me.
So this is written and directed entirely by Taylor Sheridan, who we know from Wind River, and we know from what are the
Hell or High Water?
Yes, thank you. Hell or High Water and Sicario, and as well as the new Sicario, Day of the Soldado, which oddly looks like an Ed Hardy T-shirt on all of the posters around town.
It does.
But I've also heard is very good. Surprisingly, I haven't seen Soldado, but I've heard it's good. Anyway, the thing about Taylor Sheridan, I really like him. I really love the stories that he's telling and trying to tell in the worlds that he's putting on screen. But he, unchecked, because he rides a fine line between corny genre and sort of reinterpreting genre and exploring it, and that if he's not checked in or reined in, you can get lines like, "This isn't checkers, son. This is chess," which is corny. Corny as all hell. You've seen the show. What do you think?
I've seen bits of it, yeah, and I sort of think he's unchecked. Basically, I mean, I thought it was beautifully shot. I have family who lives out in Idaho, and recently we were actually at Yellowstone in Montana. So like it does the landscape justice. It is beautiful to behold. And Costner is great. Every time Costner's on screen, it's not just that thing where he's a movie star. You remember he's a really good actor, and he can kind of almost sell this corny dialogue and hold your attention. But overall, I did find myself feeling like there was this, I don't know, it felt like a corny 80s, 90s, like Dallas-y kind of soap opera, but just really well done, and now with like famous people. And
well, Sheridan wrote and directed, I think, the whole thing, the whole first season, or is it a miniseries kind of thing that they're doing?
I don't know for sure.
Episodic, I think.
Yeah,
is it?
Episodic.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure he did the whole first season, which to me is, we're seeing that more and more, where like, one director writer comes in and does like 10 episodes and directs it. And I've yet to see it work. It clearly works on the studio side of things and budgeting. Twin Peaks is, its own thing. We can't even.
It is. But I had to say, Twin Peaks, I will always.
Twin Peaks is better than most anything that's almost ever come out. So you can't kind of say like, Twin Peaks did it. Not everybody. David Lynch is such an anomaly.
Yeah, I know.
But I've yet to see it work, and I think it's one of these things where it's like the studios can get these guys to work their asses off and write 9 hours and direct 9 hours, but rarely do we see the quality come out of anything but the first episode, the pilot episode.
You mentioned Dallas. You're hearing that comparison a lot with this series. I've heard it called Dallas with horses, which sounds pretty spot on. I love how Kevin Costner has gotten to the point in his career. Well, actually, I don't even know if I think he's always done this, where he basically has managed to marry like his personal interests with the roles that he takes. Like you can tell when he is really into something. Like you referenced Field of Dreams. The guy loved baseball. He went and made 3 baseball movies over the span of like 10 years. 2 of them, Field of Dreams and Bull Durham, are like bona fide classics. The other one was pretty damn good too, For the Love of the Game.
Is that Sam Raimi, For the Love of the Game? I
Was it? I don't know.
I have a feeling it was.
Wow.
It sounds like vaguely familiar, but I don't know if it's true.
Yeah, but he's clearly an outdoorsman. I think he actually has his own ranch in Colorado. He has said that like the West to him is heaven on earth. And you see him now do stuff like Open Range, like Hatfield and McCoy's. Now this I love how you can tell when Kevin Costner is fully into something versus to maybe a paycheck movie like Man of Steel or something along those lines. But I haven't seen this, but I would watch it for Taylor Sheridan. A little disheartened to hear some of the dialogue in this series, but I think that guy hasn't really missed, I don't think, over the last few years. I've become a huge fan of what he's done. Wind River, Hell or High Water, Sicario.
I would say that even when he misses, I think there are some misses in Wind River. There's a monologue in Wind River that I found to be kind of hokey and way too on the nose.
Nobody's perfect.
Yeah, and even in Hell or High Water, there are those moments as well, which is like, oh, this is really on the nose here, a bit heavy-handed. It still works because the world that he's exploring is rarely explored that intelligently on screen. Like, genre is rarely given the chance to actually explore something, and when someone can do it, you get a really entertaining, fun movie, but one that's also about something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he has definitely, I think, like found his niche. He's crafted this own universe. He's basically this new frontiersman. He's writing these really entertaining yet really complex at the same time dramas that are gritty. I think he is sort of like helping reshape what the contemporary Western means these days. So I would actually watch this just on the strength of Taylor Sheridan. I'll ride with him.
I mean, my only issue is I think that it's, having been a big sky country and loved it and seen this diversity of people, class, ethnicity, just and politically out there, I know there's so many amazing stories to tell that haven't been told by Hollywood yet. And I don't know if like the rich rancher with his 3 kids, who is trying to fend off the developer who's also Native American. I don't know if that's actually the story that I want to see again. I almost wanted the focus to be on the Native American chief who had this kind of lust for power and is trying to not only restore something to his people, but be a capitalist and be a power player. I think that almost would have been a more interesting anti-hero to focus a drama on in 2018.
Coming back to AMC this Sunday for its 3rd season is the supernatural drama Preacher. The Seth Rogen executive-produced show picks up with Jesse Custer coming back home, a place he's avoided the entire time up until now. I don't know why. Let's look at the trailer.
As soon as I get my power back from Star, we kill them all. The Grail, Grandma.
Run faster, stand in the fire. I'm a bloody vampire at Voodoo Disneyland. I should be their main attraction. Stay dead, stay dead, stay dead. Stay dead and out of this world.
What was it like?
Why does everyone keep asking me that?
You died and then you came back. What else did they ask about?
You're down, you're down, you're down. You're dead, you're dead, you're dead. You're dead and out of this world.
Kevin, what's up with Preacher?
Yes, we're season 3. I will say I think this is a make or break season for this series. This is I will say, like, I go back and forth in terms of how much I enjoy or appreciate this series. I was definitely it was a slow burn to begin. It picked up a lot of steam through season 1. At the same time, I think season 1 turned off a lot of its hardcore fans of the graphic novel because it veered so far from the source material. It basically season 1 was entire. It was exposition.
It's like prequel to the source material,
right? Which I understood why they did. They needed to basically give these characters. They needed to flesh them out and give them fun backstories before they showed all the terrible things that they were about to do in season 2. Season 2, I think, caught more of a groove in terms of sticking closer to the source material. I think season 3 is going to be very interesting. I worry about this show only in that I think it's reached that sort of pivotal moment where it's like, is it going to gain any new fans at this point?
Yeah.
It's buzzy for its outrageousness, and it really is like increasingly outrageous. I mean, this is a show that killed Tom Cruise in like the pilot episode. It was such a hilarious moment. I think it's better for its surprising twist than it is for its shock value. But this is a show. It's one of those shows I go back and forth with on every other episode.
Yeah, I mean, to me, what's so wild is that Ruth Negga is on this like AMC show, and like no one cares or seems to care. Like one of the best actresses, I think, who's working out there, Ruth Negga, Oscar nominee, beautiful, luminous, just always bubbles on screen. And I feel
incredible eyes on screen.
Yeah, and I feel like no one's talking about her performance or what she's doing. And of course, she's doing a great job, but it's like, and has a great storyline. And I feel like that, to me, like you were saying, it's make or break. I don't think this show was able to dig into the zeitgeist when it counted, and now it just is not. It feels like kind of an also ran. It just feels like another sort of filler show for peak TV, and
kind of like.
Which is what most TV feels like right now, filler for peak TV.
Sadly, which, I mean, if you think of a lot of these shows in any other era could have maybe found legs and really found a voice, and now it just is like, well, I don't have time for that.
It reminds me a little bit of Shameless, and that like its peak appeal right now is like, oh my God, can you believe what they did on that show? More so than like, man, that show is like brilliantly written or acted. I do think it's well acted. I love Tulip, Cassidy. I mean, it's got
a whole cast of
great
actors.
characters.
I mean.
But yeah, but I don't know if it's. I think it's troubling that I don't think it's fully found its footing, and we're in season 3.
Well, capping off this week's list, we have the season finale of HBO's Westworld. The internet has been abuzz with all sorts of theories of what's going to happen next in the popular sci-fi series, as if anyone has understood anything that's happened previously. Have you? I know you love the show, right?
I
does
mean,
not love the show.
No, I do. Okay, so here's the thing.
Sure.
I love the beginning of this season. I thought it was a really great comeback from a disappointing season 1 finale. I thought what was great is at the beginning of the season, there were going to be actual consequences for what was going on. Like, people would actually die, or there'd be actual, like, recompense for things. And as the season has sort of turned in the back half, it's been all about these two things called the cradle and the forge. And if no one knows what that means, because no one knew what it meant until like 2 episodes ago, the cradle is where they house like the supercomputer in the cloud that they host, all the host data is in. And the forge is apparently where every single human being who's been to the park, everything about their psyche has been uploaded into a cloud as well, because the actual twist is Westworld is a big, it's about immortality for the human. Like, again, this is what kind of frustrates me, is that it'll be on a really good course emotionally, plot-wise, and it will add more sort of complications to the storyline as opposed to kind of investing in the emotional character arcs.
Yeah, that's what frustrated me about the first season of the show. I haven't necessarily stuck with it because peak TV.
There's a lot to go through.
But I remember really loving the world in the first and second episode, and then consistently finding that it just kept throwing more irons in the fire without actually any kind of reasonable conclusion or something that felt like a payoff for it.
And I have to say, I think I figured out like just recently what I think the one biggest problem that the show has is, and it's that it's a commitment phobic show. That no one on the writing staff wants to commit to a timeline, a actual reality, a sort of what is this character's deal? I mean, it just gets to a point where they can wiggle out of any choice they want at any time, so nothing really matters. It's very different to Game of Thrones, if you will, which, if they killed Ned Stark off in the first season, he's dead. And everyone has to deal with the fallout. And so when you don't have that commitment to your story, you have no stakes, and your audience no longer really has to care. Right. They can think about the puzzle box all they want, but they're not going to care, because what does it matter if you lose your favorite character? They'll be back next week in another robot body.
I think this is definitely the best show on television in terms of making me feel stupid. It gets harder.
But what if it's a show? This is my problem with Westworld. People say it makes me feel stupid, but what if it makes you feel stupid because it is actually stupid and is pretending to be smart?
I put my blind trust into the Nolan brand. I think that's kind of like the Nolan MO. I still don't understand what the hell happened in Inception, but I loved it, And I have faith, maybe it's blind faith, that somewhere in a writer's room, this is all mapped out just the way it's supposed to be. But I never have compared this show to Lost before, but as you were speaking, I was like, this reminds me exactly how I felt watching Lost. It's like, it feels like they're just going all over the place. Are there going to be stakes? Is it going to pay off in the end?
And what's frustrating is there have been some really great standalone episodes this season where they have pulled back and invested in certain characters and given answers. And the next episode, it seems like none of that mattered, and we're not even focused on that anymore.
So we went through Jurassic World, Damsel, Brain on Fire, Luke Cage, Yellowstone Preacher, and Westworld. So many things. Megan, Kevin, what are your 2 picks for this weekend for people to watch? Do you have 2 picks, like 2 full-fledged picks that are actually being released this week. I mean, my picks would honestly be other things from other weeks.
Yeah, I mean, next weekend, Glow, I've seen that, and that's one of the best seasons of TV I've seen in a long, long time. But again, Luke Cage, if you're a huge fan of Mike Colter, I mean, he still delivers. He's still the hero of Harlem, and if you're a Marvel fan, like, it's definitely worth the watch. Also, I mean, the Westworld finale, if you've been following along, I think it's worth being in that conversation because I think there's going to be a lot of chatter the next day about, I think people will this will be a make or break moment for Westworld, to be honest.
I didn't realize we had to choose two. That got harder.
Choose one.
That
Just
got
choose
harder.
one.
If I had to choose one, oh yeah, Luke Cage all the way. Yeah, I'm gonna ride with that. Season 2 definitely has its flaws, which were deeply explored here, but I love it. I love its energy and its vibe and its characters and its music. So
Yeah, the music
I'm with that all the way.
good.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here because I have not seen it, but I'm gonna say Damsel because I like Robert Pattinson, I like Mia Wasikowska, and I like the Zellner brothers. Their stuff before. It's kind of cool to watch their quirky vibe get a bigger of a budget and some stars. So whether or not that is something that after seeing it I will recommend, having not seen it, I'm gonna recommend it for myself to go watch it. Now, moving on, Rendy Jones is back. He's an intern here. We love him. He's back in a segment we like to call Rendy's Recs. This time we're spelling it with a W, meaning it's a movie that Rendy does not recommend because it was a wreck. Get it? Whole lot of geniuses thinking up stuff around here. What do you have for us this week, Rendy?
For this weekend, of course, it's Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. What wasn't said was that how much it feels like this is a corporate thing from Universal where it's just going through a different box of checklists. In the checklist. Everything you've seen in the franchise is now done to death, it's pandering. And in the end, if it's heartless. There's nothing to recommend about it. Just go watch.
You were looking for some heart.
Yeah, I was looking.
You got none.
I mean, I was looking for something different from the rest of the franchise, but it's just the same old dinosaur mumbo jumbo.
Fair enough. Thanks, Rendy. That was part of Rendy's Recs. Make sure you check out his reviews for both things he likes and does not like at rendyreviews.com. Before we go, we have some honorable mentions we didn't have time to go over. Today marks the 30th anniversary of Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Be sure to check out that classic, as well as the fantastic piece Meghan wrote about at the film on Decider.com.
Thank you.
There's also a return of Comedy Central's Drunk History and the new documentary about Elvis Presley called The King. Thanks to Meghan and Kevin for joining me, guys. Thanks so much for being here. That does it for Build Week and Watch. We've recommended a lot of titles for you, and if none of them suit your needs, you should probably just get off your ass this weekend and go to a protest. That's where I'll be. Build Brunch is up next.